In this video I will show you how to quickly and easily darn a pair of socks on a sewing machine. Machine darning, unlike some other darning techniques, has very little stretch, but it is worth doing because it's fast and easy. Hi, my name is Matilda and welcome back to Miss Matti, the channel where I share all about how to live an awesome and sustainable life. And in today's video I'm going to show you how to darn a pair of socks on a sewing machine. I will show you two different ways to darn your socks on your sewing machine. One using the free arm and one using a makeshift embroidery hoop. And if you're like, makeshift what? I will explain that more later on. So I have these merino wool socks which I had for 10 years now. I've tried to find replacements, but I don't seem to really find anything that I like as much and seem to be of a similar quality. So if you know any great merino wool socks out there, let me know in a comment down below because I would love to check them out. But until I find it, I thought it was the best to actually strengthen it so that I can get more wear out of them. At first I was very ambitious and was trying to hand darn the socks with embroidery floss, and although it turned out great, it was so tedious and yeah, it wasn't really worth my time. I found that it might be better and easier to darn the socks on my machine. And then I will also darn one of my husband's pair of socks later on in this video, just to show you the two different ways which you can darn them on a sewing machine. As you can see, the socks are worn out at the heels as well as on the toes. In this tutorial I will show you how I darn the heels. Here you can see a repair I made on the socks before when I got a tear in the heel. To machine darn your socks you will need a sewing machine with a free arm and or embroidery hoop attachment. If your machine does not come with an embroidery hoop attachment, you can make a makeshift embroidery hoop. I got this idea from Leah Day when she darned socks on her sewing machine here on YouTube. To make a makeshift embroidery hoop, you will need a mason jar lid ring and a pipe fastener from the hardware store. You will also need a screwdriver to fasten and loosen the pipe fastener. You will also need good quality threads. In this video I used polyester thread in both matching and contrasting colors, but you can use cotton thread as well. Sock darning is a perfect way to use up those odd colors you might have if you would like to make a visible mend. And you will also need a free motion quilting or darning presser foot. Then I used an old sock, but you can also use scrap jersey fabric to cover your hole. And you will also need fabric snips and fabric scissors. You will also need universal or microtech sewing machine needles and a tape measure. For more details on which supplies to use when machine darning socks, check out my blog post linked in the description down below. Set your stitch length to 0. If you want to, you can also lower the feed dogs. I initially thought I was going to be able to darn these socks using my makeshift embroidery hoop, but as you will need proper access to the socks inside the hoop, it was really hard to darn the socks this way as the knee socks themselves got in the way. Therefore I decided to use the free arm darning method instead. However, if you're interested, I am darning another pair of socks using the makeshift embroidery hoop later on in this video. So now I'm going to show you how to darn using the free arm method. Attach the darning presser foot, then attach the needle and then thread the machine. Also make sure that you put a fully winded bobbin into the machine prior to pulling the socks onto the free arm. Pull the socks around the free arm, roll the sock tops around the free arm until the part you want to darn is on top of the needle plate and the feed dogs. Cut the socks or jersey fabric and place on the whole worn out area. You can stitch both from the right side as well as on the wrong side. On this pair of socks I am stitching from the right side, and on the other pair which I darn using the embroidery hoop I am darning from the wrong side. As I mentioned earlier, make sure that the stitch length is set to 0. Start by moving the socks in circular motions like you're scribbling on paper. Keep on stitching to cover the patch and the hole. As the stitch length is set to 0, you will need to move the socks to create stitches. Make sure your stitches cover the patch and the hole or worn-out area to create a strong repair, but you do not need to stitch overly densely for this. To create a matching look to the part which are done by hand, I'm after a while switching thread color to another blue shade. When doing this, I am pulling my sock off the free arm, but I'm not taking it off completely, as I still want to have the presser foot and needle attached. Be careful that the needle do not catches the sock. Then I am replacing the bobbin, pulling the socks back over the free arm, and then I replace the overthread. Cut thread tails short, and then go back and stitch over that area a couple of times. Keep on stitching, moving the socks, securing the patch in place. Do not worry if you have cut a patch too big. You can cut off any excess fabric later. Make sure that the open toe on your darning foot do not catch stitches and edge of the patch. Secure the edge in place with zigzag motions. Once you are done, remove the presser foot and the needle before removing the socks from the machine. One of the worries I heard from you on Instagram was if you can feel the stitches when you're wearing the socks. I could only feel that the area was slightly stiffer initially, but it wasn't uncomfortable, rather just a bit firmer part of my socks until I'd worn them in a bit. Also, I think you might be able to feel the repair more if you let the hole become too big. As such, I advise you to darn your socks as soon as they start to be worn out. As I thought it was going to be too hard to pull the worn out toe area into the machine, I decided that the best method would be to attach a patch. I have attached patches to socks before, even if making a darn is generally a stronger and longer lasting repair. I cut a piece of the black socks I had in the shape of the worn out toe area. Then I attached the patch using running stitches in black embroidery floss, similar to what I did in the Kanta stitching tutorial. I was working the stitches in a circle from the outside in. And then, using blue embroidery floss, I made a blanket stitch around the edges to secure the patch in place, as well as creating a decorative look. And my merino wool knee socks are now repaired and ready to be used some more. Now I'm gonna show you how to use the embroidery hoop method. These socks are my husband's favorite socks, and he was pretty sad to discover that they had holes in them. As such, I thought I could darn them for him so that he could keep on wearing them for a bit longer. If you know of any similar looking socks out there, ideally, ethically and sustainably made, please let me know in a comment down below. I have already repaired this pair here with thread matching the stripes of the holes and the worn out area. I will show you now how to repair the hole here at the heel. Then cut your patches using socks or jersey fabric. Attach the socks to the embroidery hoop by pulling the mason jar lid inside the sock and placing the pipe fastener around it, and then fasten it with a screwdriver. Place the patch over the hole or worn out area. Here I'm placing it on the inside of a sock and stitch from the wrong side. Push it under the sewing machine with the needle and presser foot removed. Once in place, attach the darning presser foot and needle. Set the stitch length to 0 and start by moving the embroidery hoop with the socks in circular motions. Keep on moving the hoop in circles like you're scribbling on paper. As the stitch length is set to 0, you will need to move the socks to create stitches. Make sure not to stitch too fast to avoid creating bulging areas in the fabric. You can also zigzag back and forth. I did both the circle movement and the zigzag movement on these socks. Make sure to secure the edges without the prongs of the darning foot getting caught. You can stitch as much as you like, but if you want a softer feel, I recommend you to not stitch too much, just enough to secure the patch and the hole. Re-hoop if you have more space to stitch. I found that I had to do this a couple of times as the needle bar otherwise would hit the hoop. And now both the socks are darned and ready to be used some more. So there you have it, 2 different ways to darn socks on a sewing machine. I would like to know in a comment below if you have ever tried darning socks on a machine, and I really hope that if you haven't, that you will like to try it out. If you like this video, please give it a like, and also check out these videos over here, because if you like this video, you might like these. And until next time, bye!